Hey, welcome to the Swarm Sound System Studio here in Sydney. I'm Vic Z, and I'm going to just take you on a bit of a tour around the studio, counterclockwise, and just show you some of the units that are contained within. So what we've got first up, and you heard me tweaking on to begin with, was the JP 8080. It's a bit of a classic, the JP 8080, circa late 1990s. Below it is the MS 101, another cool synth that has a very interesting and, you know, kind of classic sound. And I use this unit often for bass lines, I mean other weird stuff that I sometimes get it to do. I've had it feature on one of my most recent tracks called Miscreant, off the Miscreant EP, bit of a plug, coming out start of the year on vinyl on the Swarm Sound System label, so look out for that. Features the MS 101 and a few of the other boys in the studio. Next thing I'm going to show you, which is the Allen & Heath Q16. It's my digital mixing desk. Before I owned the Allen & Heath, I actually had a Mackie 1604 VLZ 1604, which is a brilliant unit, but I wanted to go digital for a number of reasons. A, I just wanted my sound to sound a little bit crisper, and also I wanted the automation. So this thing's brilliant. It records all your slider movements. It has a range of effects built into it, and I can basically dial up whatever I need to remotely or straight off the desk. Records all the fader movements. It's got USB recording straight to hard drive basically, or USB stick. So as soon as I do a mix down, bang, you go straight into there, and then I can put that wherever else I need to. Also, the other really good thing that I love about this unit is, at the moment, I've got all my units running through it in terms of jack input, but it also is a monster sound card. So every channel, all 16 channels, are USB channels from 1 to 16, and that gives me a built-in sound card, so I don't have to have another audio box for that. It's all part of the QU16. All right, and over here we've got the Roland DO5. I used to own a D20, always wanted a D50, never managed to get my hands on one. Had a D20 ages ago, one of my oldest synths actually, and then eventually it basically got old and buggy, and I had to move it on. So I managed to get a DO5 to replace that LA sound that I think is pretty awesome. Love the old DO5, just all the patches from my D20 work on it, plus the D50 patches, which are all over the internet. So it's brilliant. It's just a good little synth, small footprint, can do some pretty cool stuff sound wise. You know, from bass lines to, you name it, whatever. Just above the DO5, I've got a Behringer Crave, which is a pretty cool synth, pretty easy to use. Everyone always talks about how easy the Crave is to use, and I kind of agree. But I like it because it's got a really deep and sort of lustrous sound that I've managed to pull out of the Crave. The Crave, I've got something a lot of people that I know own, probably one of the most popular synths out there at the moment, the Micro Freak. You know, coming up next, the Bass Station, another favorite of many people out there. One of the more recent units I actually got, the Bass Station. I only owned it for about, I don't know, a month or two. I used to actually have the original Bass Station, the bluish one, the smaller sized one. It was one of my first ever units actually that I got when I started producing music years and years ago, just when it actually came out. And then I sold it, and then what possessed me to buy the Bass Station? I don't know, because it sounds above the Bass Station, keeping it in the Novation family, is the up here next is the Neutron. But what you might notice about this particular Neutron is that it does not sport its usual red faceplate. In fact, I've had it swapped by a local guy who produces faceplates here in Sydney called Audio Parasites. So he created this white faceplate. He does a whole range of different modifications for units such as the Neutron, other Behringer kits and what have you. I use it for bass lines, other grumbly sort of menacing sounds such as this. The Neutron is one of my oldest units actually. So have a look at this one. It is the Nord Micro Modular. Now, moving on to this thing though, have a close look at this one. The Quadrantid Swarm. Why did I get it? Yes, because it is called a swarm. That is a big reason why I got it. Yes, I bought a synth because it was called Swarm, and this is the Swarm Sound System Studio. We've been doing Swarm events since 1999, so everything in my life is Swarm. So I had to get the Swarm Quadrantid, but it actually is my favorite synth in the entire studio, this little box. And it's not just because it's called a Swarm, it's because it's so bloody weird and so cool sounding, and it kind of defies logic half the time when I use it. It's got really weird little pencily knobs and these two sort of dials here, the two filters. But it's a killer synth. Let me just give you a very brief example of what it sounds like. I mean, just what I'm going to play now won't do justice to what this thing can do, but it's pretty out there. Gentle sounding synth, and I love it so very much. Above it is the Model D. I'm not going to do anything more about that and tell you that's a Model D. You all know what a Model D is. Model Ds are awesome and they sound great, and it's part of the Behringer range. Now, the cousin in terms of insect varieties to the Swarm is the Wasp. Oh, the Wasp. I love my Wasp as well. I got my hands on the MO. Now, finishing off with the units here, we have the Spark, the Arturia Spark. Now, what I use this Spark for is actually to control the RD9. Now, I know the RD9, that's a really brand new and highly coveted unit at the moment. Everyone's in RD9, you know, kind of psychosis mode, and I'm really lucky to have it. I was waiting for 6, maybe 7 months for this unit, and it's finally arrived. I actually used to own an original 909, and then I had to sell it. Long story. Anyway, the RD9 has been a brilliant replacement for my 909 cravings. But what I use the Spark for is to control the RD9. Now, as I said before, I don't really use the internal sequences of these units very much, if at all. Everything is controlled through Ableton primarily at the moment. I like to sequence from my machine, and then everything is in module mode. And what this unit lets me do is it lets me use step sequencing within Ableton in a really convenient and very precise way to control my RD9. So what I did was, the RD9 out of the box had really weird mapping. It was not general MIDI for all the notes or the kicks and everything else. So I had to remap it. So now what I've got in the Spark is a completely perfectly mapped sequence of all the kits in the RD9. So they correspond perfectly to the RD9. And Bob's your uncle, mate.